Hey everybody, it's Dave Dugdale, learningvideo.com. This video is about the GTX 980 Ti, an amazing card for video editing. It's pretty inexpensive when you compare it against the Titan, which we'll get into in a little bit. But before I do, I want to talk about the computer that JJ built about a year ago. He came out. He was actually here in the office, spent 2 days building it. I filmed the whole thing. It was a lot of fun, but I had a problem with it, and that's why I really haven't done any speed tests with it, and I'm going to show you some of those speed tests, or playback tests, I guess you could say, here in a second. But basically there was a blue screen of death type of error that would occur. We finally figured out what it was like a year later, because it was an intermittent problem, and it didn't bother me too much until just recently it started getting worse. It turned out to be dirty power in my office. So I put a UPS on the machine, and now it doesn't crash at all, which is fantastic. So when JJ was here last year, he had a card with him, which he actually took back with him, and I put my old GTX 680 in there. And the 680 I purchased about 3 years ago. That was the card to have, and it's been a workhorse. It's been a fantastic card, but since then, newer cameras have come out like the GH4, the A7S that shoot 4K, and when you start stacking 4K footage, you start adding effects onto it, you can get some drop frames. There's just not enough CUDA cores, there's not enough bandwidth basically for the 680 to handle that type of footage. All right, about 2 weeks ago, I was trying to decide whether I wanted to get the 980 Ti or the Titan. Both of them are great for video editing from what I understood. So I actually just got the 980 Ti because a lot of people were saying spec-wise, the two cards are very similar. Same amount of CUDA cores, which are about double what the 680 had. So a lot more CUDA cores, a lot more bandwidth, a lot more specs that I don't even understand. But these cards are amazing. So the Titan is about $1,000. The 980 Ti is about $650. So big savings in cost there. Specs wise, they're very similar. But the biggest difference between the two is the Titan has 12 gig of VRAM, whereas the 980 Ti only has 6 gig of VRAM. So I was a little bit nervous that I was going to start loading up some projects. I was going to look at the memory going on with some of the sensors that I've got. And I'll show you these tests in a second. I was worried that I would run out of RAM quickly, but I've really worked it hard, and it's really hard for me even to get to like 3 or even 4 gig of VRAM on a lot of these tests that I've run. So let's get started and take a look at a few tests. All right, first up, we're going to run tests on the GTX 680 just kind of as a benchmark to see how it relates to the 980. And right now I'm just showing you that there's some metadata from James Drake's Red Epic. And what we're going to do here is show you that under the sequence settings, it's a full 5K sequence, maximum bit depth, maximum render quality. And if we look at the viewer, we've got both playback and pause resolution set to full. And so let's go ahead and start that test. So here we go. So this test is 1 minute long exactly, because I wanted to see how fast it could render 1 minute of raw footage, if it was like 1:1 or a 2:1 kind of ratio. And as you can see that there's a yellow dot indicator that's dropped frames. That means it's dropping frames right now. And as you watch the playback, you can see it dropping frames, especially on this clip right here. You can see the CPU usage is pretty high. You can see the memory used is only a gig, a little over a gig, 1.2 gig. And the GPU load is going all over the place. It's like 90, 88, I-95. So the GPU is getting maxed out here. You can see the CPU is actually not getting maxed out, but the GPU is. And that's where this whole upgrading to the GTX 980 Ti comes into play. But again, what I want you to remember here is that the amount of memory used is not that great. So there's the end. And if we take a look at the drop frame indicator, it dropped 350 frames. All right, next up is the GTX 980, and it's going along here, and you can see there's a green dot, and the green dot will stay there the entire time, which makes this card just amazing. You can see the CPU load is kind of similar. It's getting maxed out, that graph over on the right-hand side, and then it comes down a bit. It'll go back up again. And now if we look over at the GPU load over on the left-hand side, you can see it's going like 52, 60, 57, 58. So it's not maxing out like it did on that last one with the GTX 680. And you can see that the memory used has actually gone up. maybe because the GPU or the CPU usage is a little bit different. There's a little bit more headroom perhaps, but now you can see the memory we're using is a little bit over 2 gig. So here comes to the end of the sequence, and as we can see, if you look at that green dot, it stayed green the entire time, so it didn't drop 1 frame, which is pretty amazing. So you might be looking at this footage thinking, wow, no drop frames, color corrected, red footage, raw, that's amazing. And it is, but you will get drop frames here and there, especially when you're going from one codec to a different codec. You might drop a frame here or there. If you start using GPU effects that are not GPU enabled, you will work the CPU harder and you'll get drop frames that way. So it's going to happen. Let me show you something here that's kind of interesting. This is from my A7R2 course that I'm working on. And as you can see, I'm scrubbing around on the timeline trying to get the amount of memory used up. And you can see right here I'm over 2 gig. And there's times when I've gotten up to like 3 gig. And some of these are where I'm scrolling around trying to get the memory to go up. Basically, it's stacked 4K footage too high. So there's actually a lot of different streams happening here. And you can see by the disk amount of stuff that's coming off the M drive, I'm usually only peaking around 20-30% output on my media drive, so not too bad on there. And one last test I want to share is the rendering times. So with the GTX 980 Ti, it took 1 minute and 32 seconds to render that 1 minute Red Epic 5K footage with color correction applied that didn't drop any frames, which is utterly amazing. And then the GTX 680 took 2 minutes and 32 seconds, so quite a percentage higher in terms of the two. But me, I don't really care so much about rendering times. I can always go get a cup of coffee or do something while it's rendering. I can multitask. But for me, it's more about the experience of editing without dropping frames. It's much more enjoyable than having this stuttering type of playback while you're trying to be creatively editing. So that's pretty much it. I think bang for the buck, the 980 Ti is the card to get, and it'll probably last many years to come because I don't think I'll ever get an 8K camera. I think 4K is going to be where it's at for quite a while. So that's pretty much it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.